Hello everyone and welcome back to the second episode of Meeting the Pieces. I did cut it a bit fun on the last one, so I'll try and be a bit better this time round. So yeah, the bishops. So how do the bishops move? Well, you've got two bishops at the start of the board. Right, let's see if we can just get rid of... Right, so you've got two bishops at the start of the game, and bishops move along the diagonals as any number of spaces they want, and they capture pieces just like that. So they just take a piece and it's fine. Let's just give a move for black, and they just move around. They just move around and take pieces. Like, there you go. Together, both of your bishops will cover the whole board. So let's just play through what I've got. Like we said in the last video, bishops are do like pawn weaknesses. So you can see here, all the pawns are on light squares and control the light squares. So this bishop isn't very happy with them, but this bishop can just slide right into those DMs and have a good time. So we'll just continue pushing pieces around. So, right. So together the bishops can cover every square on the board, which is what's known as having the bishop pair, and they're very good long-range pieces and can move around quite well, unlike the knights, who are fairly short-range pieces. If you only have one bishop, then you haven't got the bishop pair and you can only control half the board. Okay? So, which of these bishops would you rather be? Feel free to pause it if you want, but okay, so this bishop, the dark square bishop, is stuck behind the pawns. You can see here, this bishop has no future. It can never get out. Well, it can if we remove all these pawns, but this bishop is stuck. Whereas this bishop can go wherever he bloody well likes along the light squares. He's very happy to move around. Whereas this one is stuck. So, good versus bad bishops. Bishops can often get trapped in by your pawns, which is something you will want to consider throughout games. We'll come back to this in a little bit. Okay, bishops versus knight. These pieces are both technically worth the same amount, so they're both worth 3 points in a lot of things. But I don't really care about point value. I just care about winning. So yeah. As it says on the comments, the knight looks free, but it's actually trapped. So the bishop is controlling all of these squares here, here, here. Controls all these as well, but this knight cannot move to any of these squares. So your bishop is often very good trapping knights. So bishop king d6. We're gonna just move our way and attack this knight. I mean, the ending is drawn if anyone's being smart, but let's just go after this knight. So then king moves, and we take. And the knight couldn't escape, right? Well, it probably could have jumped this square, but like the knight was trapped by the bishop. Okay. So that's something you want to consider in your games as well. How your bishop can control different squares from distance. Okay, so this is something that a lot of people will hate, purely because it's happened to you and it's a very nasty thing. Okay, so this is where we start. This is a bit of an odd gameplay by me. I can't remember when I played it, but we need to use a diagonal for our g2 bishop here. So we've got a nice bishop. As we can see, this our opponent's bishop here is trapped in by its pawns a little bit. It's not very good. And what else can we notice? Well, what we can notice is that we have the king and queen are on the same line, the same diagonal. So what do? We play bishop d5. We attack here and we pin. This is what's known as a pin. We pin the queen to the king because the queen can't move because you'll put yourself in check. So currently we're attacking the queen and the queen can't move. So what do? Black resigned here, but why did black resign? Maybe you defend with your bishop. Put your bishop in the way. Well, it still doesn't work because our queen is protecting it. And we still have this same pin, this same problem, and the queen can't move. So then we take, and the king moves, and white's just winning. It's basically, we're up too much material, and the queen is just too powerful. So do watch out for when your king and queen are on the same diagonal together, because a sneaky little bishop could jump in and ruin your day. Okay, so oh, I've just messed up my thing. Okay, so called this part opposites don't attract. Who's winning, right? White is up 2 pawns in the endgame. We should be winning, right? But let's just see. We've got opposite coloured bishops, so black controls all the light squares and white controls the dark squares. So we're going to move around, try and get our king in there, but all white needs to do is just continue just shifting his bishop around. And really, this is a draw. Because white can't progress because he's got no influence over the light squares. So opposite coloured bishop endgames can often be very drawn, or something you might want to avoid, because you will lose control over half the board that your opponent can control, right? So it's like if, say, white was attacking, they'd be up a piece, really, because we can't defend the dark squares. Our bishop's on the wrong colour if we're black. Okay. So yeah, that's something you need to consider. Like opposite coloured bishops are often drawn, and if you're attacking with an opposite coloured bishops, when loads of other pieces are on the board, you can be up a piece because you can't defend the whatever colour bishop you're missing, right? Okay, so this is what I've called an inaccurate game, bishop versus knight. So I played this one. This was a rapid game, 15 plus 10. I played the English. It's turned into a sort of Queen's Gambit-y style thing. So now we've got our bishop on a nice long diagonal. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong out. We've got a bishop on a nice long diagonal. We've got our light square bishop, just chilling. Maybe he wants to jump to d3, attack h7, and we'll just play through the game until we actually care. So I don't want the knight to take this bishop here because it will ruin my pawn structure in front of my king. We talked about this before, but ruining the pawn structure means that I've got quite a nice set of pawns here. They're all in line with each other, and if you take it, my pawn will my bishop. Say I'll just make a move. My pawns are a bit more ruined now, a bit shattered, and then black can get his rook in and hit my king. So what I actually did is I gave up my bishop for this knight and took it to maybe hamper the progress of the pawns in front of the king. Drop my queen back, drop my bishop back, and okay, right. So which bishop is better now? You can see the arrows giving you a bit of a hint. What should white do with his bishop? I mean, I'd recommend moving his bishop to a6, because currently his bishop is looking at nothing, whereas my bishop is looking at this pawn and having quite a nice time. Whereas if this bishop was here, it would be looking at my rook and having a bit more freedom. Maybe it can jump onto the c4 square. So you need to think about this. So it's technically a bad bishop right now because it's looking at the wrong colour pawn. And even though my bishop is on the outside of the pawn chain, well, actually no, even though my bishop's on the same colour as the pawns, it's not blocked in by them because it's on the other side, which is often why you want to get your bishop out fairly early. Okay, also notice we have opposite coloured bishops, so I am going to be very careful not to fall into an endgame where it's these bishops against each other, because that could either make me losing or a draw, and I want to go for the win. Okay, so we're just going to play through. I like playing h4. G4, not really something to worry about at the moment. Knight takes, and I think this is where it starts to become a bit of a mistake because I missed a move like this, hitting my queen. But we go into a queen trade, and this is where it gets really confusing. So we're going to skip through this because we're only in it for the bishops. Takes, 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 and now I am definitely doing well here. My bishop's long range, and I've also managed to get rid of a bishop for a knight. So I'm no longer in opposite coloured bishop territory. So now we need to fight against this knight. Unfortunately, this has happened. So we've got my rook out of trouble because I'm currently threatening to promote to a queen. So if they let me, let's just say they take this rook, then I throw in here, they take, and I promote to a queen. It's all good. So you can't just instantly jump in and take my rook. So they took the pawn and gave up the exchange that way. Knight takes a1. So now I could take the knight, but I decided to move my bishop back and try and control this knight and this square here. So now we're just going to try and use our bishop to control the knight. And I didn't want to go into a rook versus rook endgame because that could be drawn. Although my position is slightly better, I didn't want to risk it, so I wanted to use the advantage of having this bishop, because in the ending, if players on both sides of the board, you kind of want your bishop, because the bishop can cover, maybe not all the squares, but it can cover half of them on both sides quite quickly. whereas the knight, it'll take him a long time. Plus, look at the squares that the knight has got. The knight has not got any squares to go to except for a3, and all I need to do is protect that. But instead, I probably should have protected it, but instead I went aggressive to trying to undermine the 2 pawns that black has got on the queen side. That's their advantage. Let's just check how I'm doing for time. 10 minutes. Oh no, doing it again. I'm running out of time. Maybe 15 minutes was a bit ambitious. So we're using the bishop to support the rook. Bishop and rook are very nice together sometimes, as well as bishop and queen. Now we swing our rook back, start attacking, and now we just try and pick up all these pawns, and the h-pawn ends up coming in clutch because the bishop comes in and attacks. Well, this is a fork technically, and attacks 2 pieces at once, and black resigned here. So we used our bishop because we could play on both sides of the board, support our rook, infiltrating into the back, and eventually we won with a tactic. So we chose bishop versus knight, and our bishop prevailed, because the knight had to struggle to try and find a way back into the game, and it really never did. Okay, so this is a very, very common idea. So this is a bit of a poor opening choice by black, but this is what's known as the Greek gift sacrifice. Feel free to pause it, see if you can find the move. Okay. Bishop takes h7. Boom! I've done another video on this, so I will get back to a proper video on bishop takes h7, but we should probably introduce it now. So bishops are great for just throwing in and throwing in from miles away and pulling the king out and sacrificing it so you can get an attack. So now we throw our knight in, knight g5, and notice how it's given a square on h5 for my queen. So say black goes back, the queen comes in, and you can't stop mate, because the queen, whatever you do, that doesn't really matter, but literally whatever you do, I don't know, even if you go here, then the queen comes in and it's checkmate. Okay? Say you don't go to g8, say you go to g6, so instead of going here you go, oh dear, say you're going here, you go here. You'll end up playing queen d3, and you'll win some material anyway. So watch out for this sort of setup here. With the pieces set up like this, or similar to this, you can almost always just fling your bishop in, sacrifice it on h7 and go, boom, thank you very much. How are we doing for time? 12 minutes, not too bad. Knight takes, knight check, and then we bring our queen in. So there we go. It's a very nice motif that you need to sort of have in your bank, because once you spotted it, once you understand this position, we've gone through it a few times, you'll spot it in games instantly. You'll just be like, bam, stick that on your pipe. Okay, so let's continue. So this was a terrible game. I think it was, I don't even know why I'm showing this, but just before we end, the bishop pair is also very good at restricting your opponent's king. So can you see here, the king is in the corner, and the bishop is blocking all these squares here. So the king is going to have to actually try and get itself out of this problem. But white played a3, and then the rook swings in, checkmate. But let's say he goes to g1. Well, then we go bishop c5 and push him back. And then we go rook e1, checkmate. So the bishops can be very, very useful at restricting pieces and your opponents. They're a good long-range piece. The pair of them is often considered an advantage, considered having versus one. Opposite bishops are a very complicated subject, but can be a useful trick to whip out if you don't want to lose, like in this game. White should be winning, but it looks like they should be winning, but they're not. And bishops versus knights are a very interesting topic again, as well as we always have the Greek gift sacrifice, and I love sacrifices. I will be doing lots of videos on sacrifice. But we'll just finish on that because we do like to see that. So once again, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too quick. I hope it wasn't too much. But in the future, I will be looking at this again and covering any topics in more depth. So I do hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.